My name is Alara Vance, and I'm 32 years old. The fluorescent lights of the Sterling Financial Group boardroom hummed with their usual sterile efficiency, reflecting off the polished mahogany table and the array of grim faces. My boss, Mr. Sterling, a man whose tailored suits always seemed a size too small for his inflated ego, cleared his throat for the grand announcement. Beside him, his son, Jason, fidgeted nervously, a thin smirk playing on his lips. I knew what was coming. I'd felt it in the subtle shifts in the office, in the hushed whispers of colleagues, in the way Jason had suddenly started walking with a new, swaggering confidence. When Mr. Sterling finally uttered the words, "I'm delighted to announce that Jason Sterling will be promoted to Senior Financial Analyst, effective immediately," a cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. The promotion was supposed to be mine. I was the obvious choice, the one who had put in the extra hours, crunched the most complex numbers, and delivered the recent groundbreaking market analysis that had boosted Sterling Financial's quarterly profits by 15%. But I simply smiled, a polite, utterly fake smile, and congratulated them both. My voice was calm, my expression unreadable. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly have conceived in their wildest, most arrogant dreams, was that I had already made a call. A quiet, anonymous call. And that call was about to set in motion a chain of events that would shatter their carefully constructed world, exposing a rot that went far deeper than simple nepotism. Before I dive into the sheer, agonizing detail of what happened next, and how a seemingly quiet act of injustice brought down an entire empire, I want to take a moment to welcome you all. If you're just tuning in for the first time, thank you for being here. Please, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join our community. I share stories of family conflict, betrayal, and how to find your strength when everything seems lost. And for my returning subscribers, welcome back. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means the world to me. Now, let's talk about that promotion, that smile, and the secret call that would lead to a very public, very delicious downfall. My life now is a tapestry woven with threads of quiet dedication and meticulous precision, much like the work I do. I am a senior financial analyst at Sterling Financial Group, a title that came to me through a much different path than originally intended. My office is a haven of quiet focus, a cubicle among many, but within its low walls, I am a queen. My daily responsibilities involve diving deep into company balance sheets, dissecting market trends, forecasting economic shifts, and advising high-net-worth clients on investment strategies. It's a world of numbers, algorithms, and complex financial models, a place where meticulous attention to detail is paramount. I spend hours hunched over multiple monitors, my fingers flying across the keyboard, translating raw data into actionable insights. It's demanding, often requiring me to pull late nights, especially during earnings seasons or when a major client needs an urgent analysis. But I thrive on the intellectual challenge, on finding patterns in the chaos, on predicting the unpredictable. My colleagues see me as quiet, almost reserved, but fiercely intelligent and utterly reliable. My career aspirations go beyond just senior analyst. I aim for a partner position, a seat at the table where real decisions are made, where my insights can shape the future of the firm. My living situation is modest but comfortable. I live in a well-maintained, one-bedroom apartment on the quieter side of the city. It's a space I've curated to be a sanctuary, meticulously organized, every book on the shelf aligned by color, every file in its proper place. My financial situation is stable. I'm building my savings with discipline, investing wisely, and living prudently. There are no extravagant splurges, just a steady accumulation of financial security, brick by hard-earned brick. My hobbies are quiet, solitary pursuits that allow my mind to unwind from the intense focus of my work. I pore over intricate jigsaw puzzles, losing myself in the minute details of interlocking pieces. I read vast amounts of financial news, a strange form of relaxation, keeping my finger on the pulse of the global economy. I also have a passion for baking, finding a different kind of precision in measuring ingredients and following recipes. The sweet aromas a comforting counterpoint to the sterile scent of the office. My friendships are a small, trusted circle. There's Sarah, my college roommate, now a successful architect, who understands my driven nature and my need for occasional quietude. And Ben, a former colleague from my first job out of college, who shares my dry wit and appreciates the intricate dance of financial markets. We don't see each other often, but our connections are deep and unwavering. There are no romantic relationships in my life currently. I chose to prioritize my career and my personal well-being after a past disappointment that taught me the value of self-reliance. My morning routine is a calm ritual, a strong cup of black coffee, a quick scan of the financial headlines, followed by an hour of focused work before I even step foot in the office. My evenings are quiet, a balm after the intensity of the day. A home-cooked meal, a good book, or the satisfying click of a puzzle piece falling into place. It's a life I built, piece by deliberate piece, and it was everything I needed, until a power play threatened to dismantle it all. To truly understand the internal struggle, the quiet fury that simmered beneath my composed exterior, you need to understand my family. My parents, Professor Allen and Dr. Carol Vance, were academics, intellectual giants in their respective fields of theoretical physics and astrophysics. Our home was less a warm, bustling family hub and more a quiet, intellectual retreat, filled with books, scientific papers, and the low hum of abstract thought. Emotions were viewed with a detached curiosity, a phenomenon to be observed and analyzed, rather than experienced and expressed. Intellectual achievement was the highest virtue, logic the purest form of communication. My parents valued brilliance above all else, and they made it clear, subtly and overtly, who possessed it in spades. My older sister, Clara, was the shining star, the embodiment of their intellectual ideals. 3 years my senior, Clara was a prodigy. She sailed through advanced math and science courses, won national debate championships, and effortlessly absorbed complex theories. She was tall, with a regal bearing, a sharp, aquiline nose, and eyes that held a knowing, analytical glint. Her voice was articulate, her arguments flawless. For my parents, Clara was the perfect equation, the irrefutable proof of their superior genetic contribution. They saw her as a direct extension of themselves, a logical and brilliant successor to their academic legacy. My role in the family was that of the quiet achiever, the diligent one. My grades were excellent, but I rarely won the splashy awards Clara did. My successes were in meticulous detail, in solving complex problems that required patience rather than flash. My parents would praise my diligence or my rigor with a polite nod, but their eyes would light up, their voices would quicken, when discussing Clara's latest triumph. I was like a well-crafted proof, accurate and sound, but Clara was the elegant, groundbreaking theory that redefined the field. Family dinners were intellectual sparring matches. My father would pose complex scientific or philosophical questions, and Clara would immediately jump in, offering brilliant, multifaceted answers, dissecting the topic with precision. My mother would chime in, adding her own incisive observations, and they would engage in a rapid-fire intellectual dance, leaving me feeling like an audience member rather than a participant. If I tried to offer an opinion, it was often met with a polite, "Interesting, Alara, but have you considered the implications of the quantum entanglement theory on that premise?" The conversation would then seamlessly pivot back to Clara's more rigorous insights. I remember my 9th birthday vividly. I desperately wanted a telescope, dreaming of exploring the stars like my mother. Clara, who was 12, received an advanced robotics kit, complete with programming software, something my parents deemed truly stimulating. When it was my turn, I received a beautifully bound, comprehensive dictionary. My mother explained, "Knowledge is the greatest gift, Alara, and precise language is the foundation of precise thought." I spent that night tracing the intricate patterns of the dictionary's cover, feeling the heavy weight of unspoken disappointment. Another time, in middle school, I placed second in the regional math Olympiad. It was a huge accomplishment for me, something I'd worked tirelessly for. I came home bursting with excitement. My parents offered a brief. "That's quite good, Alara. Well done." Later that week, Clara received early acceptance to a highly competitive summer program at a prestigious university. My parents hosted a small, elegant dinner party to celebrate, inviting their academic colleagues. They spoke for hours about Clara's extraordinary potential and innate brilliance. My math Olympiad medal sat forgotten on my desk, a small, insignificant glimmer against the bright spotlight fixed on my sister. During a family vacation to a national park, Clara, at 14, spent hours sketching intricate geological formations and discussing their tectonic origins with my father. I, at 11, preferred wandering off the trails to sketch the wildflowers and small animals, finding beauty in the minute details of the natural world. My mother found me once, sitting by a stream, sketching a dragonfly. "Ilara," she sighed, "why are you wasting your time on such fleeting subjects? Clara is making excellent use of this educational opportunity. You should be observing the larger geological structures." My love for art, for the small wonders of the world, was constantly dismissed as a distraction, a frivolous pursuit compared to Clara's serious, intellectual endeavors. These patterns taught me self-reliance. I learned to find my own quiet victories, to value my own unique interests, even if my family didn't. I became fiercely independent, meticulously organized, and intensely focused. My quiet exterior hid a sharp observational mind, honed by years of analyzing subtle shifts in tone and expression that indicated disapproval or dismissal. I knew I wouldn't follow in my parents' or Clara's footsteps into academia. I was drawn to the tangible, to the practical application of complex ideas, which is what led me to finance. I sought a world where performance was quantifiable, where my diligence and precision would finally be seen for their true worth. I believed, naively perhaps, that in the cutthroat world of finance, merit would be the ultimate arbiter, not family lineage or academic prestige. I was about to learn just how wrong I was. The months leading up to Jason Sterling's promotion had been a tense, subtly shifting landscape at Sterling Financial. I had poured every ounce of my energy into a groundbreaking market analysis, a complex, multi-layered project that had taken months to complete. It involved predicting shifts in emerging markets, identifying undervalued assets, and developing a new risk assessment model. I regularly stayed past 8 or 9 in the evening, fueled by cold coffee and an unshakable belief that this project would be my ticket to the senior analyst position. My report, presented to the executive board just weeks before the announcement, had been a resounding success. Mr. Sterling had praised it effusively, calling it visionary and the future of Sterling Financial. I was the clear, undeniable frontrunner for the promotion. Colleagues whispered congratulations in the hallways, assuming my elevation was a certainty. But then the small cracks began to appear. I noticed unusual accounting discrepancies in some of the departmental expense reports. Small amounts at first, easily dismissed as clerical errors. Then, a few larger unexplainable outflows marked simply as consulting fees with no clear recipient or service rendered. My analytical mind, accustomed to spotting anomalies, flagged them. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was just overworked accounting staff. But the feeling of unease lingered, a faint, discordant note in the otherwise precise symphony of our financial operations. Mr. Sterling's behavior also started to change. He became strangely elusive, canceling scheduled meetings at the last minute or appearing distracted and irritable. His usual boisterous confidence was interspersed with moments of nervous agitation. Jason, on the other hand, blossomed. He started arriving late, leaving early, taking extended lunches, yet his quarterly performance reviews, usually mediocre, suddenly showed a suspicious uptick. He even began to offer unsolicited advice on my market analysis, advice that was superficial and ill-informed. I'd try to rationalize it. Maybe he's just stressed. Maybe Jason is finally stepping up, but the rationalizations felt thin, flimsy. One afternoon, I was at my desk, meticulously cross-referencing an invoice for a large software purchase. The numbers just didn't add up. The total was significantly higher than the quoted price. I walked over to the accounting department, intending to flag it. As I approached, I overheard a hushed conversation between Mr. Sterling and the head accountant, a nervous man named David. Sterling's voice was low, but I caught fragments. "Just make sure it's coded correctly, no one will notice." "Minor adjustment." David looked pale and uneasy. As I approached, they both stiffened, their conversation abruptly ceasing. Mr. Sterling gave me a forced, jovial smile. "Ilara, everything all right, just discussing some internal adjustments." He practically shooed me away. I returned to my desk, my unease solidifying into genuine suspicion. This wasn't just inefficiency. This felt deliberate. I pushed the invoice issue to the back of my mind, but I made a mental note of it. I confided in Sarah during our weekly video call. "It's probably nothing," I told her, trying to sound casual, "but I've noticed some weird things happening with the accounts at work, and Mr. Sterling and Jason are acting odd." Sarah, ever pragmatic, listened patiently. "Elara, you're the most detail-oriented person I know. If you're picking up on something, it's probably not nothing. Just be careful." Her words echoed my own growing fear. The thought of confronting Mr. Sterling, a powerful man who held my career in his hands, was terrifying. But the idea of ignoring my instincts, of letting something potentially fraudulent fester, was even worse. I told myself it was likely just clumsy accounting, a slight bending of rules to meet quarterly targets. I tried to dismiss the gnawing doubt, to focus on my upcoming promotion. I worked even harder, as if sheer effort could dispel the growing cloud of unease. I wanted to believe that merit would win, that the system was fundamentally fair. I clung to that belief with a quiet desperation, unaware that the system was already rigged, and I was just about to become its latest victim. The day of the promotion announcement was a crisp fall morning, the kind that promised clarity but delivered a devastating blow. The entire analyst team was summoned to the main boardroom, the grandest room in the Sterling Financial offices. Sunlight, weak and watery, filtered through the large windows, casting long shadows across the polished mahogany table. The air was thick with anticipation, a hushed reverence. I sat near the head of the table, my posture straight, my hands folded calmly in my lap. I felt a nervous flutter in my stomach, a mix of excitement and the lingering unease that had shadowed me for weeks. My colleagues offered me discreet, congratulatory smiles, confident in my impending promotion. Mr. Sterling entered, his usual booming presence oddly subdued. He was accompanied by Jason, who, despite his apparent nonchalance, kept shooting me quick, triumphant glances. Mr. Sterling stood at the head of the table, his fingers nervously adjusting his tie. He began with a long, rambling preamble about the company's recent successes, the need for dynamic leadership, and new blood. My heart pounded a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. This is it, I thought. He's going to say it. Then he cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping across the room before settling briefly on me. "I'm delighted to announce that Jason Sterling," he paused, his voice gaining a manufactured gravitas, "will be promoted to Senior Financial Analyst, effective immediately." The words hung in the air, cold and stark. A collective, almost imperceptible gasp rippled through the room. My colleagues, their faces suddenly etched with pity and disbelief, darted their eyes between me and Jason. My breath caught in my throat. It felt like a physical punch to the gut, winded and disoriented. The room spun for a second, the humming fluorescent lights blurring into a sickly halo. Jason, who had been trying to look modest, couldn't contain his triumph. A wide, smug grin spread across his face as he exchanged a quick, knowing glance with his father. Mr. Sterling continued, rattling off a list of Jason's achievements. A list so flimsy it barely covered a half page. It was a transparent lie, a hollow justification. My mind raced, trying to process the injustice, the blatant disregard for merit. My hands, clasped in my lap, turned to ice. A dull ache began behind my eyes. "Nepotism isn't illegal, Elara," Mr. Sterling added, his voice suddenly sharp, his eyes locking with mine in a dismissive, almost challenging way. It was a direct hit, a confirmation that this was not just a decision, but a personal affront, a blatant declaration of their power. My polite smile never wavered, but internally a cold fury began to burn. The initial shock gave way to a chilling clarity. This wasn't just unfair. It was a brazen insult to every late night, every complex calculation, every ounce of my dedication. My professionalism, my meticulously cultivated composure, became my shield. I met his gaze, my own eyes devoid of emotion, and gave him a calm, measured nod. "Congratulations, Jason," I said, my voice steady, my smile still fixed. "And congratulations to you, Mr. Sterling. This is quite an announcement." My colleagues looked at me, their faces a mixture of sympathy and awe at my composure. They didn't know that beneath that calm exterior, a quiet war had just been declared. I left the boardroom immediately after the brief, humiliating announcement, the applause for Jason feeling like a mocking echo in my ears. I didn't rush. I walked with a deliberate pace, my back straight, my head held high. My cubicle felt like a refuge, a familiar, ordered space in a world that had suddenly descended into chaos. I sat down at my desk, my hands still cold, a dull ache behind my eyes. The initial shock had given way to a quiet, almost surgical precision of thought. My emotions, though raging internally, were strictly compartmentalized. This wasn't about anger anymore. This was about facts. This was about justice. My phone vibrated. It was Sarah, my best friend. "Ilara, are you okay?" she texted, her concern palpable. "I just heard, that's absolutely ridiculous. I'm so sorry." I typed back, "I'm fine, Sarah, just processing. I'll call you tonight." I needed to be alone to think, to plan. I couldn't afford to break down, not now. The unfairness of it all, the sheer audacity of Mr. Sterling's decision, solidified my resolve. My dedication, my talent, my countless hours of work, all dismissed for a lazy, unqualified son. It wasn't just a personal slight. It was an insult to the very principles of merit and fairness that I believed in. Over the next few days, I tried, one last time, to seek an internal resolution, to get a clear answer from Mr. Sterling about why I was passed over. I requested a private meeting, hoping to appeal to his sense of reason, to perhaps glean some hidden logic behind his decision. He granted it, but his demeanor was dismissive, almost bored. "Mr. Sterling," I began, my voice calm, carefully devoid of accusation, "I understand you chose to promote Jason. I respect your decision as the head of the firm. However, I worked tirelessly on the recent market analysis that significantly boosted our profits, and my performance reviews have consistently been outstanding. Could you help me understand the rationale behind this promotion, and what I might need to do to qualify for such a position in the future?" He leaned back in his plush leather chair, a patronizing smile playing on his lips. "Ilara, you're a valuable asset, there's no doubt about that. Excellent work ethic, very diligent. But Jason is family. He has a unique understanding of the company's long-term vision. He's been groomed for this position since he was a boy." He gestured vaguely. "Sometimes it's not just about the numbers, Ilara. It's about loyalty. It's about legacy." He then added, with a dismissive wave of his hand, "And besides, as I said, nepotism isn't illegal. You're a good analyst, Ilara. Just keep doing what you're doing." His words, delivered with such casual arrogance, were a punch to the gut. Nepotism isn't illegal. He was practically mocking me, flaunting his disregard for merit, his unshakable belief that his power was absolute. I tried again, pressing for specifics. "So there's nothing I can do to advance here despite my performance?" "Oh, of course not," he chuckled, a hollow, grating sound. "You'll have opportunities. Plenty of work for you, Ilara. We value you here, just not in that particular role." His eyes held a knowing glint, as if daring me to challenge him. I left his office, my face carefully blank, but my insides churning. There would be no internal justice. He had made that abundantly clear. The realization deepened my resolve. This wasn't just about my career anymore. This was about the integrity of the firm, about the hidden rot that festered beneath the shiny veneer of success. My growing frustration solidified into a cold, unwavering determination. If he wouldn't play by the rules, neither would I. He had just declared war on the wrong person. He had just declared war on a financial analyst who saw every hidden number, every disguised transaction, every anomaly. And I was about to expose every single one of them. My personal investigation began immediately, quietly, meticulously. I knew I couldn't just march into HR or internal audit. Mr. Sterling controlled those channels. I needed irrefutable proof, something so damning that it couldn't be dismissed or swept under the rug. My first step was to review every financial report, every ledger entry, every invoice that had passed through my department or any department I had access to for the past 2 years. I stayed late, long after everyone else had gone home, pulling up archived digital files, cross-referencing numbers, looking for the tiny discrepancies that my trained eye had instinctively flagged. I told my colleagues I was just catching up on backlog. It was tedious work, hours of staring at spreadsheets until my eyes burned. But slowly, a pattern began to emerge. The consulting fees that had initially sparked my suspicion. There were dozens of them, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars, all paid to a shell corporation with an innocuous-sounding name. Apex Solutions. The invoices were vague, lacking specific details about services rendered. Apex Solutions had no public website, no discernible office address beyond a P.O. box, and no publicly listed employees. This was a red flag the size of a billboard. Then I started cross-referencing these payments with project timelines. Strangely, the largest payments to Apex Solutions consistently coincided with the firm's most profitable quarters, or immediately following the securing of major new clients. It was as if Sterling was siphoning off a percentage of the firm's success directly into this phantom company. My aha moment came when I traced the registration of Apex Solutions. It was registered in a tax haven, and the listed contact was a remote, obscure law firm known for setting up anonymous corporate entities. But digging deeper, through layers of corporate veil, I found a single, undeniable link. The legal counsel listed on Apex Solutions. Formation Documents was a distant cousin of Mr. Sterling's wife, a lawyer with a dubious reputation known for handling discreet financial matters. This wasn't just shady. This was embezzlement. My fear, which had been a low thrum beneath my resolve, spiked. I was uncovering something truly dangerous. Sterling wasn't just playing favorites, he was actively stealing from the company. My job, my career, my safety, all of it was on the line if he found out what I was doing. Doubt crept in, whispering insidious questions. What if you're wrong? What if you're just making a mistake? What if he finds out and ruins you? But then I thought of Jason, smug and unqualified, sitting in the promotion that was rightfully mine. I thought of Mr. Sterling's casual arrogance, his nepotism is an illegal sneer. The anger returned, cold and clear, overriding the fear. My sense of justice, honed by years of being overlooked and dismissed, burned brighter than ever. I meticulously compiled my findings. Spreadsheets comparing legitimate invoices with the Apex Solutions payments, screenshots of the shell company's dubious registration, detailed timelines of the siphoned funds. I built a case that was irrefutable. I didn't call the internal audit team. I knew that would be a dead end, likely controlled by Sterling. I bypassed them entirely. My first call was to a confidential hotline for the company's independent external auditors, a firm that specialized in forensic accounting. I provided them with a cryptic, anonymous tip, citing specific transaction numbers and dates, guiding them to the anomalies without revealing my identity. I told them I suspected significant financial irregularities and advised them to look closely at vendor payments, specifically those to Apex Solutions. They assured me they would launch a discreet, preliminary investigation. My second call was a few days later, after I saw the external auditors had indeed begun looking into my flagged transactions. This time, I called the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. My voice was calm, my tone measured, as I explained that I had evidence of potential embezzlement and corporate fraud at Sterling Financial Group. I provided the same key information, hinting at the depth of the rabbit hole they would find if they pulled on that thread. I knew this was a high-stakes gamble, but it was the only way to ensure true justice. The fight was no longer just for my career. It was for the integrity of the entire financial system. And for the satisfaction of watching two arrogant men finally get what they deserved. The week leading up to the celebration lunch for Jason's promotion was a surreal tightrope walk. My mental and emotional preparation was intense. I maintained my calm, professional demeanor at the office, going about my daily tasks with meticulous efficiency. No one, not Mr. Sterling, not Jason, not even my closest colleagues, detected the simmering storm beneath my composed exterior. My strategy was to remain utterly unremarkable, to be a ghost in the system, observing everything while revealing nothing. I knew the auditors were already at work, quietly sifting through the company's books, following the breadcrumbs I had left for them. The FBI, I hoped, was preparing their own move. My only confidant was Sarah, my college friend. I told her everything, showing her the compiled evidence, the chilling paper trail I had unearthed. Her jaw dropped. "Ilara, this is insane," she whispered, her eyes wide. "You're risking everything." "I know," I replied, my voice flat, "but I can't let them get away with it, not after what they did to me, not after what they're doing to the firm." Sarah, despite her fear for me, understood. She became my silent cheer squad, a source of unwavering support, reminding me to breathe, to eat, to sleep. I spent evenings poring over news reports of white-collar crime, familiarizing myself with the legal processes, mentally rehearsing every possible scenario for the coming confrontation. My fears were real. What if they found out it was me? What if I was wrong? But the overwhelming desire for justice, for the truth to be exposed, eclipsed all my doubts. I visualized the moment, the look on their faces, the shattering of their arrogance. It fueled my determination. I meticulously organized my personal files, backing up all my evidence to encrypted cloud storage, just in case. I assembled a small, discreet bag with essentials, my passport, some cash, a tiny, dark humor playing at the edges of my mind. I was ready for anything. The celebration lunch was held at the Gilded Spoon, one of the city's most exclusive, old-money restaurants. It was a place of hushed opulence, crystal chandeliers, and white-gloved waiters. Mr. Sterling had booked the private dining room, presumably to toast his son's meteoric rise in an atmosphere of unchecked privilege. I received a mandatory invitation, a perfunctory gesture of inclusion. I arrived precisely on time, dressed in a simple, elegant navy blue dress, blending into the background. I sat at the far end of the long table, a quiet observer. The air was thick with the clinking of champagne flutes, the forced laughter of sycophantic colleagues, and Jason's boisterous, self-congratulatory pronouncements. He was preening, accepting compliments with a smug smirk, clearly relishing his ill-gotten victory. Mr. Sterling, seated at the head, beamed with pride, oblivious to the storm about to break. I sipped my sparkling water, my senses heightened, my heart beating a steady, quiet rhythm. I watched, I listened. Jason recounted an embellished story of a brilliant negotiation he'd supposedly led, taking credit for a deal I had single-handedly structured months ago. Mr. Sterling chuckled, raising his glass. "That's my boy, a true chip off the old block." The injustice of it all, the sheer audacity of their lies, almost made me physically ill. But I held on to my composure, my gaze calm and unwavering. And then it happened. It was precisely 1:30 p.m. The ornate double doors of the private dining room burst open, not with a waiter bearing more champagne, but with a flurry of motion. Two stern-faced men in dark suits, their expressions unreadable, stepped into the room, flashing badges. "FBI," one announced, his voice cutting through the polite hum of conversation like a knife. "This is a raid. Everyone remain seated. No one leaves." Chaos erupted. Gasps, shrieks, the clatter of silverware. Mr. Sterling, mid-toast, dropped his champagne flute, the crystal shattering on the Persian rug. Jason, his face suddenly ashen, looked like a deer caught in headlights. More agents poured into the room, calm and methodical, moving directly towards Mr. Sterling and Jason. "Mr. Andrew Sterling and Mr. Jason Sterling," the lead agent continued, his voice calm but firm. "You are under arrest on suspicion of embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Mr. Sterling's face went from disbelief to a terrifying, mottled purple. "What? This is outrageous, a mistake. I'm Mr. Sterling. There must be some misunderstanding." He tried to stand, but an agent gently, but firmly, pushed him back into his seat. Jason, meanwhile, had slumped in his chair, his eyes wide with terror, mumbling incoherent protests. The room was a tableau of stunned silence, punctuated only by the crisp, professional instructions of the FBI agents and the frantic, whispered questions of the other colleagues. "We have reason to believe substantial funds have been diverted from Sterling Financial Group to an offshore shell corporation, Apex Solutions," the agent continued, his voice echoing in the stunned silence. He turned to Mr. Sterling, who was now openly trembling. "We have obtained search warrants for your offices and residences. The external auditors have been cooperating fully." That last sentence hit Mr. Sterling like a physical blow. He looked around the room wildly, his eyes finally landing on me, sitting quietly at the far end of the table. For a split second, a flicker of understanding, of dawning horror, crossed his face. His eyes, usually so dismissive, were now filled with a desperate, furious accusation. He knew I had done this. I met his gaze, my expression calm, unreadable. There was no triumph in my face, no gloating, just a quiet, unwavering resolve. It wasn't about revenge in that moment, but about justice. As the agents efficiently handcuffed Mr. Sterling and Jason, reading them their rights, the room was a whirlwind of camera flashes from arriving news crews. The celebration lunch had turned into the most public, most humiliating downfall imaginable. Sterling, his face ashen, his suit disheveled, was escorted out of the room, followed by a sobbing Jason. Their empire, their carefully constructed facade of power and prestige, had crumbled to dust in a matter of minutes. My internal celebration was quiet, a single, deep breath of pure, unadulterated relief. It wasn't the cheers of a crowd, but the silence of truth that filled me with vindication. The chessboard had been flipped, and I was the one who had made the first move. The immediate consequences of that lunch were nothing short of a cataclysm for Sterling Financial Group. Mr. Sterling and Jason were taken into custody directly from the restaurant. The image of them being led out in handcuffs, their faces a mixture of shock and terror, was plastered across every local news channel within the hour. The FBI, armed with search warrants, simultaneously raided Sterling's lavish corporate offices and their opulent family homes. Documents were seized, computers impounded, and a full-scale forensic audit was immediately launched. Sterling Financial Group's stock plummeted, the news of the embezzlement scandal sending shockwaves through the financial market. The company's reputation, once a symbol of stability and success, imploded overnight. Back at the office, the atmosphere was one of stunned chaos. Colleagues huddled in whispers, their faces a mix of disbelief, fear, and a dawning sense of understanding. Many of them had witnessed the blatant nepotism, the suspicious expenditures, but had been too intimidated to speak up. Now, as the details began to leak through news reports and official statements, a wave of relief, mixed with a profound sense of betrayal by Sterling, washed over the firm. I, however, found myself in a strangely calm epicenter of the storm. Within hours of the raid, I was called into an urgent meeting with the remaining senior partners, the ones who had been largely excluded from Sterling's inner circle and were as shocked as anyone. They had seen my meticulous work, my dedication. "Ilara," the managing partner, Ms. Davies, said, her voice strained. "We understand you were responsible for the groundbreaking market analysis that brought us such recent success. And frankly, your name has come up as someone who might have had an understanding of the depth of the issues." I nodded, my face impassive. "I have always prioritized the integrity of the firm, Ms. Davies." It was my quiet affirmation. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a new kind of respect. "We need someone with your sharp analytical skills, your integrity, and your intimate knowledge of the firm's operations to help us navigate this crisis. Effective immediately, we are promoting you to interim Senior Financial Analyst, with a view to making it permanent as soon as possible. You will report directly to me. We need you, Ilara." It was the promotion I had deserved all along, delivered amidst the ashes of the very empire that had denied it to me. There was no joy, no celebration, just a profound sense of vindication. Colleagues approached me cautiously, offering words of support, some even admitting they had noticed discrepancies but were too scared to act. I didn't gloat. I simply offered a quiet nod, a calm understanding. My boundaries were clear. I was here to help rebuild, to ensure justice was served, but I would not be pulled into the emotional drama. My immediate sense of empowerment was quiet but deep, a profound relief that the truth had finally seen the light of day. The extended consequences of the Sterling Financial Group scandal unfolded over several months, a slow-motion unraveling that played out in both the legal system and the public eye. Mr. Sterling and Jason were formally indicted on multiple counts of embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy. The media coverage was relentless, painting a picture of corporate greed and a father-son duo who had systematically siphoned millions from their own company, all while flaunting their ill-gotten gains. The trial was a circus, but the evidence, meticulously gathered by the FBI and the forensic auditors, was overwhelming. My own detailed financial analyses and expert testimony, presented calmly and logically, sealed their fate. I described with chilling precision how funds were diverted, how dummy invoices were created, how the shell corporation was used to mask their illicit activities. There was no room for denial. Both Mr. Sterling and Jason were convicted and sentenced to significant prison terms, their luxurious lives replaced by the cold, harsh reality of federal prison. The company, Sterling Financial Group, underwent a massive restructuring. The Sterling name was removed, and it was rebranded as Phoenix Financial Services, a symbolic rising from the ashes. My own career soared. The interim promotion became permanent, and within 6 months I was promoted again, this time to Director of Financial Integrity, a newly created role designed to prevent any future fraud. My job became about building new, transparent systems, implementing robust internal controls, and restoring trust, both internally and externally. I excelled at it. The challenges were immense, but I found profound satisfaction in cleaning up the mess, in ensuring that integrity became the cornerstone of the new firm. I became a sought-after speaker at financial ethics conferences, sharing my story not for personal glory, but to advocate for greater transparency and accountability in the industry. Unexpected positive outcomes were abundant. My relationships with my supportive colleagues, particularly Ms. Davies, who had shown faith in me, deepened into genuine respect and collaboration. The negative energy, the fear that had pervaded the old company, was replaced by a sense of shared purpose and a commitment to ethical practices. My name became synonymous with integrity in the financial sector, opening doors to new opportunities I never would have imagined. Life after the victory has been a profound journey of self-discovery and fulfillment. It's been about 18 months since the FBI raid, and my world feels expansive, vibrant, and utterly authentic. My career is not just thriving, it's purpose-driven. As Director of Financial Integrity at Phoenix Financial Services, I oversee a team dedicated to maintaining the highest ethical standards, implementing advanced fraud detection systems, and ensuring complete transparency in all our operations. I've led training sessions for new employees, emphasizing the importance of ethical conduct and encouraging them to speak up if they ever see something amiss. I'm no longer just an analyst. I'm a guardian of trust, a builder of systems, and a mentor to junior staff. The work is challenging, but every day I feel a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that I am actively contributing to a more honest and accountable financial world. My mental health has undergone a remarkable transformation. The constant hum of anxiety, the subtle fear of being overlooked or dismissed, has vanished. I walk with a new lightness, a quiet confidence that radiates from within. There's a profound sense of peace that comes from living authentically, from having fought for my truth and won. My mornings still begin before dawn, but now my runs are filled with a sense of joyous freedom, not just routine. My apartment feels less like a quiet refuge and more like a true home, a space filled with positive energy. I finally purchased a small, cozy townhouse with a tiny backyard, where I've started a small herb garden, connecting with the earth in a way that grounds me. My finances are not just stable, but flourishing, allowing me to invest in my future, to pursue passions that once felt out of reach. My relationships have deepened. Sarah and Ben remain my closest confidants, celebrating my successes and reminding me of the long, hard road I traveled. I've also built strong, collaborative relationships with my team at Phoenix Financial, fostering an environment of trust and open communication. And in a wonderfully unexpected turn, I've found a new kind of companionship. David, the head of the forensic accounting team that led the audit, and I started having coffee after work, discussing cases, then life. He's thoughtful, brilliant, and possesses a quiet integrity that mirrors my own. Our relationship is still new, but it's built on shared values, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of what it means to fight for what's right. It feels refreshingly genuine, free from the power dynamics and veiled expectations of my past. As for Mr. Sterling and Jason, their names are now footnotes in news archives, cautionary tales spoken in hushed tones within the industry. They are living out their sentences, their once glamorous lives reduced to uniforms and prison cells. I don't think about them often, and when I do, it's not with bitterness or malice, but with a detached understanding of the consequences of their choices. They chose greed and arrogance, and they paid the ultimate price. Most profound personal growth has been in my relationship with myself. I would tell my younger self, the quiet, meticulous girl who felt unseen and unheard, that her greatest strengths were precisely those qualities. Her attention to detail, her unwavering integrity, her ability to see the truth even when others chose to be blind. I would tell her to trust her instincts, to never doubt her own worth, and to understand that true power lies not in position or title, but in unwavering principles. I've learned that justice doesn't always come easily, but it is always worth fighting for. Forgiveness, for me, came not in excusing their actions, but in releasing myself from the burden of their injustice, in finding peace in my own vindication and the life I built afterward. It's about moving forward, not forgetting, but transforming the pain into purpose. The impact of my story has reached beyond my immediate circle. My advocacy for ethical financial practices has led to invitations to speak at universities, sharing my journey with aspiring finance professionals. I emphasize the importance of integrity, the red flags to watch for, and the courage it takes to speak up. I've even mentored a few young women in finance who felt marginalized or overlooked in their own careers, encouraging them to trust their instincts and pursue their passions regardless of external validation. It's a way of ensuring that what happened to me can, in some small way, prevent it from happening to others. Thank you so much for listening to my story tonight. It's a testament to the fact that even when the system is rigged, one person with unwavering integrity and a quiet determination can bring down an empire. If you've ever faced blatant nepotism or had to fight for justice in your workplace, I would love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Let's share our stories, celebrate our resilience, and remind each other of the power within us. And please, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with anyone who needs a reminder that sometimes the quiet ones are the most powerful. Remember, your worth is not defined by external validation, but by your own unwavering commitment to truth and integrity.